beautiful souls. Welcome to CosmoMuse Tarot. Today I have a very interesting reading. I am super fascinated to see what comes from it. And it's one where I would highly suggest you stay for the intro. Don't just jump into a pile, because there are some things to understand that I'd rather just do at once instead of at the start of each pile. So this is going to be a reading where we are going to look at it's kind of an astrology reading. So in astrology, different planets move at different speeds through the zodiac. So our inner planets, Mercury and Venus, move quite quickly through the zodiac. And then when you move into the outer solar system from where Earth is, we get Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and as you go further and further out, these planets move a little bit more slowly. And our furthest out planet that we really pay attention to in astrology is Pluto. And this planet is all about transformation, death and resurrection. It really gets in and uproots issues that are down in the deep, in our psyche, and traumas that have gotten stuck in us. The analogy I like to use, so what's happening is this planet, when I put this reading out, will have just shifted to a new zodiac sign if we are using Western astrology, tropical zodiac. So this planet will stay anywhere from like 10 to even 35 years in a sign. So it's a no joke planet. When it shifts, we all feel it. It's a big shift. And so since 2008, it has been in the sign of Capricorn. And on January 20th, 2024, it shifts into Aquarius. Technically in 2023, it did shift into Aquarius in the summer for like 2 months. And it will go retrograde and move back into Capricorn in the autumn of 2024 for like 2 months. But basically, starting in the evening, at least in the US, of January 2024, the 20th, for the most part, it is now fully shifted into Aquarius with this teeny little blip in the fall where it kind of dips back in for a moment. And it will stay there for almost 20 years. So it's a big shift taking place. And the analogy I like to think of in terms of how it will affect us in our personal charts is when it's in an area of our chart. In tarot, it's ruled by what's called the Judgment card. And it's this time where I'm going to use an analogy like someone, like you've made a movie. It's been a lot of work and this big effort, but now it's time to put it out to market, to show it to the world. And so the Judgment card is that moment of like all your cards on the table. You now have to show your hand, what you've made. And we then get a judgment back on that. And so in like a practical term, we're going to say you've made a movie. It's taken a lot of effort and work and time to get there, but now you are laying it out and putting it out to the world. And reviews are coming back in. And there's certain reviews you are very interested in. Maybe you're interested in critics' reviews, or maybe you're more interested in audience reviews. So whatever it is that you're interested in, you have reviews come back to you. And these are like across the board reviews. And how often do we get and see reviews where there's no critique? It's 100% perfect to everybody. That doesn't happen. Most people are going to find flaws, and when you think of more collectively reviews coming in, there's a lot of flaws to look at. And there are certain, because I've done creative writing courses where it's one thing when one person gives an opinion. It's totally fine for you to dismiss like a critique or an opinion you don't agree with. But if a lot of people are giving the same one, you need to listen to it. There's something going on there. And so that's what this is about. This is like a critique that is, multiplied. And so Pluto moving into Aquarius, we're now putting our cards on the table, this new movie out into the world, and whoever we're, say we're more interested in the audience reviews, and there's critiques and there are things to listen to. More often than not, when we get critiques, it can be very hard for us to understand and like really confront these recurring issues. Confront them, face them, do some work to correct these, reintegrate it, and then move on so that our next project we don't do those. But what happens for most of us, and pretty much I'm going to say all of us, is we keep making the same mistakes. We might hear the review, but we're like, well, yeah, but I'm going to make this different movie and it doesn't apply that time. But there's still something like it came from this deeper place and we didn't really confront it. And so we make this other movie and the reviews are kind of the same, like this movie director just can never do this right. Like all of their movies continually have like poor character development or strange plot lines that are too wobbly or like whatever it is. But you hear that about directors, like they're known for this particular thing that like they can never quite get right. So that's what happens when Pluto's going through a sign. When it first moves in, we get that review, but then we continue to kind of like make that mistake and bypass something because it's sort of terrifying to go down into the depths to really confront this, because it's usually something really deep down in our psyche that's hard to face. But by the time we get through, so right now Pluto is about to leave Capricorn, and we've had, I don't know, it's like 15, it didn't stay in Capricorn for 20 years, but it was like 15 or 16 years. So we've had a long time, since 2008, probably doing something where we were bypassing an issue and constantly making the mistake over and over. But by the time Pluto's leaving the sign, we've finally gotten to the point where, over time, little by little, we've confronted things, worked on things, and now we are at that point that where a lot of people interpret the judgment card of something being lifted off of us. We are at that resurrection point in Capricorn now. We're getting it, we've confronted it, we've done some work, and it's now time to be the phoenix where we can build our nest and burn ourselves and be free of that and elevate in life. But now we move into a new sign, show our cards in a new thing, and start the process all over again. And this time it's going to be closer to 20 years, so a bit of a longer process. Capricorn was associated with the devil card, so there's a lot about materialism and attachments to things in the concrete world, like position and money and status and this and that. So there's something around that we've done some deep work in and really kind of corrected in ourselves, and we are about to sort of have that lifted off of us. And then in Aquarius, which is about humanity, about really owning your originality despite what the group is doing, but also being engaged in the group, in wanting to think about the collective and think about the future and make the world a better place, and kind of forgo personal creativity for collective and collaborative creativity, which is a little bit more of an amplified creativity. So there's things that we're about to lay on the table around our Aquarian side, what we've been doing in our Aquarian territory. We're about to get a judgment on this. And in tarot, the star card is the one that represents Aquarius, so it can be about being able to see and envision a better future and have hope and belief. And so I think a lot of us are going to confront where we're struggling with that. And it does feel like something that does need to be confronted right now, and we need a lot of work on. So it makes sense, and it should make sense, Pluto coming into a sign. It's been a long time since it's done a revamp, a renovation there, right? So it's about time we really start to think about the future and humanity and plan better for future generations and that kind of thing. So this reading, I know this is a long intro, but I think it will be worth it and very illuminating and fascinating. It's about something that's such a big thing that I'm okay with this being a big intro, because I think, I'm educating too about this whole transit. What this reading is I want to look at what we are graduating from. I want to look at Pluto and Capricorn. What were the things that it brought up for us? So, and the way I'm looking at it is it's sort of like, I'm going to look at 3 different things that it brought up for Capricorn, and then 3 different things it's going to bring up for Aquarius. And so in Capricorn, we're going to look at, where were our struggles? What was kind of like, it could be archetypes that it brought up, or different things we were engaged in and really working hard on during this transit in Capricorn that it brought up. And then I'll get a message about your graduation in these 3 different things. And then we'll look at Aquarius and this new transition and 3 different things it is about to or already starting to bring up. And then we will get a card as we end that for some guidance on each of those. So that said, we have 4 piles to choose from. This is definitely a reading where I would just choose one pile. Pile 1, we have Orange Chalcedony. Pile 2 is Aquamarine. Pile 3, we've got Flower Agate. Pile 4, we have Blue Orca Agate. Okay, if you need some time to sit with these piles and feel into which one is drawing you in, feel free to pause here. When you are ready, timestamps will be in the descriptions and you can jump straight to your pile, starting with pile 1. All right, I will see you guys in your readings. Hello, pile 1, my Orange Chalcedony pile. Welcome to your reading all about Pluto in this big moment of transition. We are going to take a look back at what it was doing in Capricorn for you, and then we are going to take a look forward to see what new challenges and renovations it is bringing to the Aquarius energy in your life. If you have not listened to the intro, I highly suggest it. This reading may not make really coherent sense without that foundation. So definitely go listen to the intro if you haven't. Okay, we are going to start with looking at Pluto through Capricorn and what that brought up for you, what that made you work on and kind of overhaul and renovate in your life. We're going to look at 3 different things it brought up. So this is one of them. We've got the underworld. So your depths, your soul, really facing, certain shadows within you, things that you have to sense through intuition, that are hard to kind of like see in the world, but really kind of connecting to your depths. We're going to also get an astrology card to further define what this is. Oh, wow. Imam Koli, this is the roots of your life, which is kind of the same thing that the underworld is talking about. This is connecting into your foundations, connecting into your soul, your intuition, the things that are underneath, that are hard to see, that you have to use other senses to really feel into and to come into alignment with in order to stabilize and ground in life, which then allow you to reach. But you can't reach, you can't grow up to the light and ascend in life until you learn how to root and ground and really connect into intuition and depth. And so there was a lot of overhauling taking place in your life since 2008 around this. So it could have been a phase of life where certain aspects of your life felt like they were not progressing forward, but that's because they were progressing downward. And now as we leave Capricorn, Pluto here, with sort of a graduation in this, you now will have the stability to move forward in some area of your life that maybe has felt stagnant. But I would imagine that you probably also recognize that, yeah, I've done a lot of deep soul work, foundational work. This can also relate to family and home in really practical senses, but in more spiritual senses, it's also soul, depth, inner work, shadow work, inner worlds, imagination, that intuition, that kind of stuff. I want to look at too, we're going to get a tarot card for this as well to see what was kind of like the main review that came out about this that you've really been working on in your life. Just getting a little bit more specific. Six of Wands. Interesting. So yeah, there may be, like a part of you that would try to charge out and claim certain victories before you were stable enough to do so. And so that's why this work came up for you. It was sort of like premature leadership, premature victories, things you weren't actually mature enough in and strong enough in to really hold victories. Like like maybe you had previous to 2008 and even a little bit into this phase since 2008, like had sort of a false sense of confidence and which can sometimes be admirable, especially when you're young and like just feeling like, yeah, I got this, I'm going to go out and conquer. And like maybe you could have like some short-lived wins, but you can never quite hold on to it. And it's because you hadn't been taking the time to really get depth going, really grounding yourself and feeling nourished and deep and stable in order to hold victories that you were, maybe able to initially get but struggle to hold on to. But now, as you graduate out of this, it's like you understand that process of what it means to go deeper and to grow some depth and to come from soul territory and to build some foundations before you leap, before you charge onto the battlefield. So yeah, I definitely get the sense that you have like this winning spirit, and so you probably still can make some wins. It's just like maybe it was hard to hold on to those, and now you'll be able to hold on to victories. Okay, let's see another thing that this last, since 2008, what Pluto in Capricorn may have brought up that needed a lot of revamping in your life. Feeling that card. Ooh, Thanatos. I think that is, there's only a couple cards in this deck that I struggle to recall, and that's, I think it has something to do with death, but I am going to, luckily I have the guidebook right here. I just want to make sure that I'm not completely misinterpreting something. Okay, where are you? LXX111. Okay, here we go. Yeah, death. Death. There are those with a great gift for navigating Thanatos energy. Thankfully, we find these generous souls in emergency rooms, hospitals, hospice centers, and the like. I'm just reading a few things the guidebook says since it's already here. Facing death leads us to truth. When in light, grieving, mourning, bearing witness to all that is. When dark, fear or insensitivity to old age, illness, the dying, to go deeper. Oh, that's a book. Basically, this is, it is tempting to oversimplify death, sum it up as transformation, but the true archetypal resonance of Thanatos cannot be easily assimilated or contained. Death is ongoing and omnipresent, an eternal response to the gift of birth. Witnessing the ending of another being, creature, phase, or stage has deep consequences for the psyche. We are forever changed by Thanatos as it sweeps us under its wings, making us relinquish control in every form. It leaves a mark of ash upon our heart, signifying we have touched the cusp of the underworld, which you caught there. This is interesting, and will return to the land of the living eventually with more compassion and wisdom to share. The capacity is needed in our world. One who has faced the annihilation of Thanatos can face anything. When this card appears, it signifies an initiation into the underworld. Wow, these really connect deeply. I want to say what I'm feeling is a lot of you during this, from 2008 until 2024 could have experienced a lot of deaths in your life, or a lot of metaphorical deaths. And Pluto was taking you through these types of experiences because it wanted you to value and understand what life means. Life is for the living, but we don't understand the depth of that and the fragility of that until we really experience deaths in our life. And so this is something I think Pluto is trying to help you to feel a deeper sense of, a deeper appreciation for life. So that's part of your underworld journey as well, was an appreciation for life, for taking it for really understanding the purpose of life is for the living, of living to the fullest because life is fragile. Yeah, there's something about that for you guys. And then connected to third house and communication. So the third house can also rule anyone that is sort of on a peer level and that we see often in our local community. So colleagues, good friends, siblings, people that you're in constant connection with that are on a peer type of level. So those deaths may have been more sort of friends, colleagues, people in your neighborhood, siblings, these kinds of things. We're coming up to make you more deeply value connection and community and what that means, and how to really live deeply in a sense of community. Which is really actually a beautiful message there. Yeah, and I don't, not taking that lightly. Obviously, people who have experienced many deaths in a span of 15 years, or that could have even come in a short burst for you, like over a course of 3 or 5 years or something. Obviously that means you've gone through a lot, but it also means there's just a massive depth of really connecting in such a deeper way with people in your everyday. Yeah. Okay, let's get a tarot card that might show what kind of the critique was that sort of pushed you into having to learn some things over and over here. The Empress. Yeah, this kind of I kind of want to say before 2008, like life really might have, I feel like you're maybe like a golden child person and life kind of came easy for you. But Pluto coming into Capricorn for some reason was like, you need to learn some lessons about going deep. Not just, you need to get past an easy come, easy go. Life isn't just to be lived on the surface. Like, there are much deeper things to attend to. And when you understand that your creations and your victories are coming from just a much more radiant place, a much more mature, magnetic, like, yeah, I'm feeling the impression before that it is just like this tingly energy, like easy come, easy go, and life is bubbly. But Pluto and Capricorn was like, well, it's time to learn how to go deeper though, and how to maybe be able to have the same sort of creativity and sensuality and the same victories, but do them more slowly and in a way where you can then really claim them and own them and value them and feel them as deep and share them as deep, instead of just this like, oh, that was fun and now I'm moving, like it's just like life is more profound now because of the challenges you've been through and the things you've had to uproot to overhaul. The way you win and create in life, and how you build foundations, and how you value community and connection. Okay, let's look at the third thing. Ooh, the Lovers. And that totally solidifies what I was just talking about, at least in the tarot. And I know this isn't the tarot, but that was the first thing that popped into my mind and just so deeply connects to what I was just talking about, is the Lovers is a card ruled by the sign of Gemini. And that's the energy I was talking about. Like Gemini is very, no shame to someone with a Gemini sun or rising, because that's not what I'm talking about here. In our charts, like you may be a Gemini sun, but you have this whole ecosystem of other planets and house systems. Like you're never just a Gemini. But what I'm talking about here is singular Gemini energy, which is just like a compartmentalized energy. And it is that energy of pollination and flirtation. It's kind of the teenager. It's on the surface of things. It's a little bit superficial, but still has this youthful, beautiful, flirtatious, expressive energy. And so that's coming up here again from what I had just been talking about. So that just kind of confirms where I was already going. So let's just add on to that with an astrology card. I'll die if Gemini comes out. Or Mercury, the moon. Oh my gosh, but that's also crazy because the moon has a lot to do with this Imam Koli roots and underworld. it rules and naturally rules the Imamkole, which has association with the underworld, with our roots. So that's coming up again. That, yeah, like Pluto and Capricorn just wanted you to move from the surface of things where it was, you know, shiny and pretty and flirtatious and sweet and nectary, into your depths, into your soul, into something a little bit more stable, a little bit more mature, a little bit more perceptive and imaginative and deep and premonitory and intuitive, and just taken a little bit more seriously. Yeah, so let's get a tarot card of just adding to, because we've already seen this theme come up, but just any other messages the tarot can shed on, like, why this, what kind of review was it that came up that pushed you into this kind of work. The Devil, which is the Capricorn energy. So maybe some attachments. You know, maybe there were expectations in family or a way family taught you to be that created some sort of attachment to being a certain way, to being a little bit more in the sphere of pollination and intelligence versus depth and intuition. And so you had to do a lot of work to detach from old programming, from ancestral stories, from expectations, from even cultural things going on with a certain shallowness in life. And I say shallow in an affectionate way, in that colorful, pollinating spring birds and bee way. Like, it's a beautiful, shallowness is beautiful, but it's but there's a time and place for it. And Pluto and Capricorn was saying, we're done with the time and place, at least for now. You need to go into your depths. You need to learn intuition, depth, soul, grounding, maturity, richness, a little bit more radiance versus nectaring. No, nectaring's not a word, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, so I do want to get to end this some cards that are like a graduation message of, now that you've kind of gone through this since 2008, what's sort of like a message about the graduation you're coming into for each of these. Ooh, okay, so we've got Pearl and Larimar, let go, surrender, release, patterns and triggers, Pleiades. Yeah, I think you have let go of some patterns, and especially maybe seeing that around the way you kind of charge out to kind of claim some victories or leadership. I think you've let go of old patterns there. Yeah, and have come into like a deeper maturity there. This one wants to come out. And then with the Empress, mushroom magic, exploring new states of consciousness, untapped potential. So one of the gifts of having gone through either literal or metaphoric deaths, especially as relates to kind of community. Oh, and look, this says communication and that says communication, is you have learned how to communicate more deeply. You have tapped into a higher level of consciousness by going deeper into yourself, by experiencing the depth and beauty of what life is, by experiencing death or transformation. And you have tapped some potential that you had not reached before. You had not gone deep enough to reach, but you've done that now. Okay, last one. Fairies order, rest, replenish, and release guilt. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, I do feel just a deep sense of relief here. definitely there can be guilt with the devil, for guilt that makes you stay attached or guilt for letting go. It's kind of the same thing. But I think you've let go of that. Like, you're not going to be shamed or let expectations sort of prevent you from being your deeper self, connecting to a more intuitive sense of who you are. And now you're kind of in this mode of recovering from how that felt to go through releases. So you're kind of recovering from what it took in you energetically to kind of let go of attachments and expectations and being seen a certain way. Okay, let's now move into the new phase coming in. So what kind of work is coming up? This is the work you've done. And now we're going to look at the work that is coming up. You know, in the autumn of 2024, if you come to this before then, so September, October, and a couple weeks of November, you could revisit a little bit of this, but for the most part, you've graduated this. Okay, so let's see what's upcoming. What's the new work? What is Pluto in Aquarius bringing to your doorstep? Oh, the Father. Fascinating. Because, you know, all that depth, that's mother territory too, which didn't really come up. But now that I see Father here, that's quite a contrast. It's like an opposite, really being pushed into kind of like opposite energy. Instead of going deep and being in intuition, it's like reaching high in the world and creating structure and status and security through your position in the world and through kind of structure. I don't know why. I kind of want to get all of these out first before we do the astrology cards. The Storm. Fascinating. And the Mystic. Ooh, okay. I kind of, since I got the book out, where did I put it already? I kind of want to see how the storm is interpreted by this book. CXLV, okay. Whirlwind, disorder. The storm lays bare the truth that there are forces larger than you. Okay. This understanding is a relief, but also a predicament of power that requires your surrender. Ooh, okay, interesting. Yeah, you are really, you've gone deep and now you're really reaching upward in this new Pluto trajectory. With the Father, that has to do with, aspiration, structure, responsibility, duty, but also like outer world position. So holding roles in the world that also help within sort of your family structure, your household, create some like discipline and expectation. And then the storm, is like certain things in your life being beyond your control and having to kind of let go and trust that there's greater forces. It could be shaking certain things up in your life. And I think that whatever it shakes up, because I just want to reassure you, because we saw like you probably went through a lot of like deep, profound life, death, transformation scenarios in the last round. Whatever this is shaking up, I don't feel it as the same, like it'd be a different quality or category of life. It's shaking something up in your life where it's like beyond your control and working to help you to surrender and trust in these greater forces. due to making things beyond your control, if that makes sense. And then the mystic is a beautiful one in connection with the storm, showing that that is something you are developing, is this relationship with something bigger, with something more divine and ethereal. So in the Capricorn and Pluto and Capricorn, you developed a relationship with your intuition and depth. And this time you're going to be creating a relationship with things bigger than you, having to trust things bigger than you and things you can't control, and trusting a certain communication and language you learn through relating with these bigger things. But then at the same time, the father can be a little bit controlling, like wanting to like hold on to control of things. And these two things are a little bit about surrender. So there is a little interesting tension here. And I think it might just be about different things in life. There are certain things that you're going to gain more control of and more structure and discipline in, but then there's going to be certain things in your life that will be beyond your control. And I guess that kind of helps to balance things. So it's not like every part of your life is going to be a little bit nebulous. There will be an area that Pluto is going to want to work on to make you more responsible and controlled and disciplined, and then a different area of your life where you're kind of developing trust in greater things. Yeah, so fascinating, kind of duality there. Okay, let's get some astrology under these. Discomfort, debilitated. Oh, interesting. Okay. Vesta, Hearth. Let's take the top one. Fifth house, passion. Okay. These go very nicely together. Vesta and Hearth, that's kind of like tending to your inner flame, your inner passion. And then the fifth house, we saw from your Capricorn or Pluto in Capricorn that kind of thing in you of wanting to go out and claim victory and take leadership. So the fifth house can also be that, but I think the Pluto in Aquarius is having you learn some lessons and revamp an approach to doing that with a little bit more of a mystical bent, a little bit more of a mystical creativity and a mystical leadership. And something about allowing yourself to be in the storm, to be in things that are beyond your control, and having to learn to still keep your center within that. That's what this Vesta feels like. Learning some lessons about still tending to your inner flame and your personal inner passions, despite external circumstances. So even if you're in circumstances that are beyond your control, there's things you can do inwardly to kind of tend to your center and your personal passion. And then debilitated and discomfort with father. I honestly feel a resistance almost from like coming back out of the depth and roots. I think maybe you found a lot of richness in that as Pluto went through Capricorn. And now Pluto in Aquarius is sort of like, and now come all the way out of the roots and reach really high. And I think that like initially that's going to be really uncomfortable for you because you're like, well, it was cozy and soulful and radiant down there, and now I have to be exposed, and like that's sort of uncomfortable to have such a shift, but this is a really long transit, so my sense is like it's gonna be a couple years of that discomfort, but I think that will kind of wane. I think you'll start to get used to this and find the beauty of doing work here, find interest in doing work here, but I think there's going to be some resistance to like getting here, because you're going to be you're wanting to stay down in your cozy roots. Okay, let's get some tarot cards to show something about the judgment, the review that's coming up here that's going to really spark this kind of work. 3 of Wands. New shores. Some of you may even be moving, but new horizons, new shores. You're kind of being pushed somewhere new. Why is that a review? Yeah, I think because you got too comfortable. You did such good work at the end with Pluto and Capricorn that you just got too comfortable, and the review was like, you're too comfortable. That's what happened. So you're being pushed. You got too comfortable was the review. You're being pushed to totally different horizons in order to do this work, in order to push you out of your roots and into your reach. In order to get you there, you've been made to go to completely different horizons. And I honestly think for some of you, that's like a complete change of like location, career. Some horizon is you're being pushed into a very different place. Okay. A Storm, King of Wands. Interesting. We do have that Vesta, which is tending to your inner flame. Finding your center in the storm. Ooh, you are the center. Pluto in Aquarius wants to help you develop the capacity to be the center within the storm, to develop a leadership capacity in things that are complex. That feels like it doesn't have to be this field, but government, any institution, government always comes to mind because it feels like the most chaotic one, but any institution, hospital's kind of the same. It's like they're so complex and there's so much chaos going on, and they're holding so much responsibility for so many moving parts. It's almost like you have to be a composer to really, pull things together and make things work. And it takes a special breed of person to hold leadership in those kinds of scenarios. And Pluto in Aquarius wants to make you into one of those people. I think you have untapped potential in that, and Pluto in Aquarius wants to help develop this in you. My sense of what the review is and like where the bypassing and struggle to like do the work is like struggling to see yourself as a leader or as an authority here, or someone that has a certain mastery of holding your center in chaos. Or maybe you do, but you just don't want to do it. Either way, one or the other. You don't know you have that. And Pluto in Aquarius is trying to help you to grasp that you do, or you kind of know you have it and you're resisting. And Pluto in Aquarius is like, nuh-uh, don't. We need you. Okay, so let's get Mystic in 5th house. This feels like art to me too. Leadership, creativity, spotlight. You could be getting into film here. Storytelling. Some sort of more creative mysticism. Okay, let's see. Wants to come out. 2 of Pentacles. Wow, so much leadership is coming up. This is a card ruled by Capricorn energy. And then we have, the Father I see as Capricorn energy. Kings kind of have Capricorn energy. It's funny, you're coming out of Capricorn, and it was sort of like teaching you to go into your depths and into mothery territory. And now in Aquarius, it's like, okay, now you can be a leader. But balancing, prioritizing, balancing, juggling. I mean, we're already seeing you're having to like hold your center in things bigger than you. Hold leadership. Maybe you're balancing how you're working with all this kind of bigger than you energy. Like some of it's in a responsibility capacity, a leadership capacity, and some of it's for like personal creativity. So part of you may have to kind of like hold like serious things and like even position. And then part of you is trying to develop like a creative skill set that's still connected to this bigger divine mystical place. I feel like you're going to be very inspired, but I think it may, it's a long transit, and I think it's going to take a long time to figure out your balance with this. You're holding big energy in Pluto and Aquarius, and so it makes sense to me that like all of these big energies, all of these, outer world responsibility, holding the center in really complex things and being tapped into mysticism and inspiration, and it's just holding a lot of big things. And so I think it part of the critique coming in is like, maybe when you can compartmentalize each one of these things, like maybe you can, if you can have time and space and focus with one, you can do it well, but there's something initially that you're struggling to balance about all of these things. And so Pluto and Aquarius is wanting to help you create more structure and balance and deciding, like prioritizing what to hold and what to let go of, and how much of each you have capacity for, and being realistic about it, to get to a place by the end of this transit where you are really stable and strong and masterful at juggling the things you've realized are really important for this transit. But I think it's going to take some time for you to weed certain things out and in order to hold each of these with enough capacity that is being asked of you. But it's going to take some work to kind of figure out how to juggle this and figure out what the priorities are and what isn't a priority, and how to hold it all, and then how to do each one of these masterfully, and by the end just be so strong in how you're handling it all. Very cool. Okay, so to end this, 40 minutes. I didn't intend these to be as long as that. Okay, we are going to get some animal cards to give just some guidance, a little bit of a here's something to lean on as guidance for you in each of these. So Father, 3 of Wands, Tiger, divine timing, good things come to those who wait. I do feel this, even though this says debilitated and discomfort, for whatever reason, I feel this as a really positive thing taking place in your life. And it does feel like something good, and it does feel like something maybe you had been waiting for a long time and wanting a lot, but like once it arrives, all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, do I want this? But once you drop into it and give it some time, you're like, I do want to do some work here to really figure this out. Figure out how to be better at structure and holding position and holding responsibility. Okay. Then we've got Peacock, self-love, time to celebrate you and all your magnificent light. And Peacock has a lot to do with being able to, like, they can eat poisonous things and transmute them, and it kind of like everything they ingest gets assimilated, and like the cells of their body then make those beautiful peacock feathers. So they're like very masterful at assimilating really complicated things and then holding their presence in it. And so I feel like this is saying you have that capacity. This is what Pluto and Aquarius is bringing out in you. And in order for you to hold this better and do work more efficiently in this and accept the leadership you're being pushed into, is to embrace some self-love here. To embrace that you know how to beautifully hold what's going on in this energy. So step into it, and through being able to love yourself. Okay, last card. We've got Dolphin, Atlantis, healing wisdom is surfacing. Stop and listen. Ooh, okay. Whatever this mystic stuff is that's coming through is coming from somewhere very deep and ancient. You may be learning some ancient or tapping into or getting downloads to some really ancient knowledge that brings you healing and wisdom, and that you're then able to use as inspiration to create and express and generally be creative with. Because I also think of dolphins as kind of like a creative, expressive animal. I think you're going to be really, like, this is sort of like what you want to do, but it's like finding the time, finding a way to make it a priority is what you're being challenged with here. I don't know why that clarity just came through for me. I think that healing wisdom is surfing for, I don't know, something about this card made me clear up what the challenge is here. The review is that you're needing to work on is like, this needs to be a priority, but it's going to be really hard to make it a priority. So you're going to have to do a lot of work to figure out how to balance this and hold it as you're holding these kind of bigger things as well. Okay, this is where I'm going to leave you guys. Happy Pluto and Aquarius. New challenges. Sometimes it's nice. I had a friend once say she got like a horoscope that said, today you're going to be met with new problems. And she's like, I was actually really relieved because I was so sick of my old problems. And so maybe, you know, that's sort of how this feels like as we start on a new big long journey. It's like we're ready for it because we're sick of the old problems, so give me some new ones. So yeah, that's where we're at. I hope this resonated. I hope it will be insightful going forward with this transit. And yeah, if this resonated, I always appreciate support with likes and shares and subscribes. And yeah, I hope to see you in future readings as well. And yeah, there we go. Hello, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading where we are going to be looking at what you've just been through as Pluto went through Capricorn since 2008, and what you're kind of graduating in from that as it shifts signs. So taking a look at what you've been through and how you're now graduating from that. And then we will take a look forward at what kind of, you know, because Pluto is all about uprooting and renovating. So what kind of new renovations and uprooting are you coming into as Pluto moves into Aquarius for the next almost 20 years? Okay, so you guys picked this beautiful Aquamarine. We'll just put it up top here. So this is going to be the first card showing, we're going to look at 3 different things that Pluto and Capricorn brought up that you were sort of challenged to overhaul and do some uprooting and renovations around. So the first thing was the temple. Okay. We're going to get 2 more things. Ooh. Ooh, the Queen. And third. This one wants to come, but it's attached to another. The Village. Beautiful. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to get an astrology card to put under each of these to give it a little more context. 10th house authority. Interesting. Let's see, I think we need to scooch these up. Okay. We've got 10th house authority with the temple. South node past with the Queen. And ascendant entrance with the Village. Okay. Let's look at these one by one. So temple and 10th house authority. So something about as Pluto went through Capricorn, you know, Capricorn naturally, its natural house is the 10th house. So it's about career, mastery, authority, really making goals that make us focus and limit all the things we look at so that we can be more, you know, direct to our goal. So with the temple, something about doing this with more sacredness, doing this with more beauty, more honor, not just reaching because that's what we're supposed to do, not just reaching because we're expected to, but reaching because there's something really holy and sacred in us that we feel like it's like a calling. This feels like a calling, like really reaching into yourself to pull a calling out of you and present, you know, like dedicate to something and really build mastery in something, really focus on something that felt like a calling, to get to a place where maybe you came from nothing in this, like the calling coming out of nowhere and like, well, I don't know anything about that, to focusing, dedicating, planning, and going step by step towards this, to a place where now that thing that was a calling is this thing that you've made very sacred because you've given a lot of dedication and focus to. And now as you come out of Pluto and Capricorn, it's something you can hold authority in and position in the world. So it may have taken from 2008 until now to actually get to that summit where you felt like you had that solid mastery to really stand in that calling in the way you knew you're supposed to. South Node and the Queen. This one's interesting because this would indicate that this is something natural to you. But there was something, even though it was natural to you, there was something you needed to renovate around this. And we'll wait till we get our tarot card to understand what that was about. But yeah, something about naturally holding Queen quality, really being able to hold some command and be sort of like that hub of something. I do think of like a queen bee, the hub of a hive, which connects really beautifully with the Village, because this is like that sort of connector ability to really get community activated and going and thriving is like knowing how to make connections, knowing how to care for community, knowing how to be that person in community that people go to. So these do feel a little bit connected and very tied to your personality as well. I'm really interested to see what tarot cards come out here, because these 4 cards feel very connected and they feel very natural. So I don't know what was needing renovation here, but something was. Okay, so let's get tarot cards, and these tarot cards are meant to show like what was the review that came in that was like, you need to work on this, and that's what Pluto here is about. 7 of Wands, defensiveness, trying to, whatever this calling was, it was like, you may have been like, why do I have to do this? Like, why is this why do I feel compelled to do this? It's such a saturated thing. It's such a competitive place. Like, how do I even if I master this, like, how do I even stand out? There's a lot of masters in this. That's what it feels like. But having to come to the realization that the way you master it is so sacred that there is no competition, and that there is plenty of room at the top for masters, because when you master something, you're in a niche. You're not a generalist. And so it's like coming from that realization of like getting past being like, this is competitive, to being like, yeah, but when I keep going and I keep excelling, I actually create a niche for myself, and there's no competition at that niche. And so I think at this moment, just as Pluto's leaving Capricorn, you're recognizing that like, yeah, maybe there's a lot of competition generally in the field, but actually nobody's doing what I do, and I've done this in a way that's very sacred and very beautiful. And so now I feel really actually confident and stable and like totally willing to relax about this, show it, stand in it, own it. Okay, so I want to get both tarot cards out because these feel connected, and I'm really curious what was going on here, because when you're already good at something, usually you don't have to like do major renovations, but something's going on. Okay. I see. And 9 of Wands, reflection. Wow, interesting. Oh, Pluto and Capricorn did a flip for you. I think you had to learn some humility. I think what you were used to and what's natural to you is to be some kind of like leader and feeling a little bit elite, at least for what you're around, and being kind of like that person looked up to in the community. But I think something flipped you on your head here, and Pluto and Capricorn wanted you to experience being, instead of the ruler, being the peasant or something. And it could have been because you needed to focus so deeply on climbing this mountain, whatever this calling was, that you couldn't do life how you normally could. You weren't as like plugged into community. You weren't as plugged into your sense of command and wealth and this and that. It's like Pluto and Capricorn wanted you to start at the bottom of something, which meant this queen bee hub person that you're good at being had to be humble and step down in order for this to be the main focus. And in stepping down, you had to put yourself in a position where you then had to ask for help from others that then took your place as like the queen bees and the rulers. And it took a lot of Pluto and Capricorn wanted to help you develop humility and see what it feels like to be on the other side, so that when you come back into being a queen bee, you can do so in more of like a humble, compassionate way, and a more giving way as well. And I think there's a lot to be reflected on in terms of what that felt like and what that was about. I think there's some things you're still needing to process about that. Look back on, reflect on, be like, oh, that's why this was happening. I get it. I can now assimilate that and respond to that and have more empathy for what I went through, and more empathy when I now regain my queen status, to be kinder and more generous and more humble in doing so. Because you even see in this image of like this person that's the giver, they're actually dressed quite humbly. They're not like this ornate Cleopatra. They're very humble. And so it's like needing to go through being on the other side of things in order to return to where you were in a much more beautiful, humane way. And Aquarius is about humanity and humaneness, which is what we're coming into next. This is about the cat. This is what you just learned. But I think it was in preparation actually for you to step back into this in Aquarius, which we'll see how that takes place when we get to the Aquarius part. But this to me does feel like you're going to return to the queen, but you had to see what it was like being on the other side. I think of those, I can't think of a specific movie, but I know I've seen several movies where, you know, like a prince or a princess dresses down as a peasant and escapes the confines of their castle walls to go out and just see what normal life is like. And it's always very illuminating and eye-opening. And I think since 2008, you've kind of experienced how a lot of other people live, which has really opened your eyes, broadened what community means. Instead of just your little bubble of community, it's like, okay, but where I live is made up of lots of communities, and now I understand the intersection of all of these communities, and I'm more humane about that, and I know how that we actually all affect each other, even if we don't realize we do. And there's a lot to integrate about that. There's a lot to process about that, and a lot of reflection to be done there that can really make you into a much more vital leader and flourishing in general in community. Yeah, really cool. Okay, let's get an animal card to show something about, you know, you're graduating this stuff now. And so what's a graduation message? Oh, not from the animals. Sorry, I was mixing up. From the Earth Alchemy Oracle. A graduation message about each of these things. Ooh, well, this is the one that flipped upright, so let's take that. Petalite, cosmic downloads, higher heart healing, see the bigger picture. Ooh, and I love this because this would indicate you've reached the summit, so now you can see the bigger picture. You have very much so achieved what Pluto is trying to push you to achieve. You're seeing the bigger picture of what you've been working so hard to master, and how you can now put down any defensiveness and not see what you're reaching for as being competitive anymore. You see the bigger picture of it. Okay, I'm going to get both cards for these because they do feel tied again. We've got Selenite and Willow Tree, rites of passage, dreams, and support. And then Amber and Dawn Redwood, Rewild, Druid, Treekeeper, Perception versus Reality. Absolutely. Huge rite of passage. Really having some reality checks. You had a perception of what reality was pre-2008 and your perception of reality now. I mean, obviously for everybody that's going to change a lot. Reality has changed a lot. But in your own maturity and development and personal growth, the way you were perceiving life has been rewilded and has been made more aware and compassionate and whole and integrated with way more than you were exposed to and aware of and considering before. So really beautiful. A much deeper sense of reality for most people instead of reality just for you. That's what this was about to me. Okay, let's move on and see what your new curriculum, the new renovations and challenges are going to be as Pluto moves into Aquarius. Clean these out. Okay. Let's get your archetype cards. The Ring. This one wants to come out. The Ring, the Unseen. I feel like there's kind of an eye there, and then there's an eye. I mean, sort of. There's an eye in the other one, and this one, and the Empty Room. Very fascinating. I want to peek at the Ring in the book real quick because I have a deep sense these connect deeply to me, and I'm wondering if this does too in terms of how it's interpreted in the book. The infinite, the will, the connection. Take stock of the jewels you adorn yourself with. Watch out for rings you wear out of habit that keep you connected to the old you. Study images of the mandala, the Unus Mundus, the Ouroboros, and the medicine wheel. An image of connectedness. Rather than viewing life as linear as a series of progressive achievements, the Ring challenges us to sense the cyclical, infinite nature of our outer world and experiences. Okay, I think I see now. It feels a little bit, these two, again, that was interesting because the first part of your reading, the second and third cards felt connected. And that, again, these two feel very connected. This one feels maybe a little bit more of its own thing. Okay, so let me get astrology cards first, and then I'll get into what I'm already ahead of myself. Let's catch up. Cancer, immerse. Very interesting because, well, I did say in the intro you should probably just pick one pile, so I feel okay revealing a little bit about pile one. But this is a flip from pile one. They came from the depths in Capricorn, and then in Aquarius are pushed outward. And I feel like you're coming from outward and being pushed into your depths. So Cancer has a lot to do with the moon and understanding life as cyclical. As, yeah, exactly, not linear, as this thing that has life cycles and seasons and similar threads that return in different ways, but that weren't, woven in a linear way. They just kind of come back around when they come back around. And so having to be able to like really plug into body and intuition to be able to know how to move through life in that more phase cycle thing where you may not really know what's ahead of you because it isn't linear. And so you have to use intuition and premonition and soul and depth and body. So there's something coming up for you around this. Okay, and then we've got Pisces and the unseen, which very much so Pisces connects to the unseen. It's opening up to cosmic energies and downloads and trusting in things bigger than you, and you know, the angelic realm and messages and synchronicities, and being able to develop a language with things unseen. Oh, I have to sneeze. Hold on. Oh my goodness, excuse me. My dog was just sneezing next to me. That's so funny. I'm very connected to my dog. And then dignified, strength, the empty room. Wow, okay. I really am fascinated by what's come through here because it feels so interesting in relation to what you've just come out of. Where we saw in your Capricorn phase in the last set of cards, life may have been a little bit flipped for you since 2008, where you had to experience maybe what people very different from you or people you'd never really noticed or considered experienced in life and had to be humble. I do feel like you're kind of stepping back into that queen role like I felt. But in doing so, it's like your perception has completely changed. It's sort of like, how do you come from having lived as a commoner, having been a queen, dethroned, stripped of everything, lived as a peasant, and being given back your role? You would step into that and you would not do it the same, right? And so all of a sudden it's like, what is this now? What does this role mean to me now? And suddenly, like, feeling like you have to completely transform what you've gained back. You've gained it back, but you can't do it the same way. And so it's an empty room, it's a blank slate, and you have to be really tapped into your spirituality and into higher things to get some guidance of like, well, how do I step back into this thing that maybe feels a little bit uncomfortable now that I've experienced what I've experienced? Like, how can I possibly step back into this? And there is a way to do it, and you're meant to do it. But the way you do it is to be very open to spirit and synchronicities and compassion and heart and the language of developing a language with the divine, with synchronicity, to understand, to get that guidance of how to go from what you feel like has to start out as a blank slate and to then feel it in a totally new, different way that's so much more compassionate and humane and humble and evolved and progressive and innovative, and tapping into that is your strength, is to completely wipe the slate clean of stepping back into this role. Okay, so let's get a tarot card for each of these to show what the main critique is, the main flaw that is showing where the work is mainly going to be done around these things that you're going to struggle and do over and over again until you get it. Ace of Cups with the ring. This feels like trusting your heart, coming from your heart, maybe something that is hard for you to do when it comes to seasons and cycles and things not being linear and things being a little bit more intuitive. It may be a struggle for you to not try to intellectualize and create linear order. You may really crave to kind of like control and make things linear. And your challenge that you'll have to redo over and over again is to trust your heart and trust that like things don't have to be perfect and they can be messy, and it's more about how something feels rather than how it appears and how it's been done. It's like, no, you need to come from your heart to make things flow here, to really get into a fluid rhythm with this cyclical nature of things. It feels like a lot of work to move into your heart and to really, I don't feel like you're people that couldn't drop into your heart to do this, but I feel like you can be in your heart to a degree, but you also, it's like your mind also wants to try to understand the cycles and in order to try and steer the cycles, in order to control them in some way. And so there's something about being able to just like really let go of that I think is coming in this new Pluto terrain to really help you to renovate and learn how to completely trust letting go into your heart and letting things flow, even if they're not perfect and controlled and ordered, and like how to let life be that like wild, right? Okay. Four of Swords and King of Swords. The moon flipped over in my hand too, so I'm just going to put it somewhere, I don't know where, maybe just to the side here. Let's move King of Swords up. Okay. So Four of Swords with Unseen and Pisces. Yeah, you're going to really need to learn how to like the critique here, the thing that you're going to have to struggle to learn is how to, in terms of like this unseen and trusting divine and synchronicity to kind of guide you in life and develop a language with that unseen, is like you're going to have to learn how to do contemplation to understand these things. Like it's a lot of I don't know what the word is I'm trying to find. I just went like blank. Contemplation keeps coming up in the blank space of my brain right now, so I'm just going to stick with that. Contemplation, why is that a struggle for you in relation to developing sort of like a language and an understanding of the unseen? It would make sense. It's sort of like if you're trying to develop a language to understand the unseen and understand how Spirit's trying to guide you in very subtle ways, you may be taking in these subtle messages and these subtle languages, and it takes contemplation to really sit with the things you've seen, integrate them, figure out how they connect together and what that means, and and then feel within yourself what that means to you, because it's like a personal language. You could kind of like Google like, oh, what does this mean? And you may get 10 different examples. And that's why it's like, no, you need to go into yourself, because this is a language you're developing with spirit together. You're like co-creating a language together to communicate, but it's yours. So you have to do a lot of contemplation about the different subtle things that come up and how to respond to those, to say, yeah, I like this part of the language, or can I get signals in this way? And just like really spending a lot of time contemplating how to communicate with the unseen and understand and create that language. Very mysterious stuff. And then the empty room. You're coming back, that's interesting. You're coming back more, because we saw the Queen. You're coming back more as a king, and as you get your role back, you're kind of more elevated, or like, I don't want to say elevated, it's kind of snobbish. Like your like status back in the world. Instead of coming back as a queen, you're going to be coming back as a king, and that's going to be very different. And that's part of why the room is empty, because you maybe haven't ever been more in that. It's a little bit more, the queen does a lot of work with community and the women, but this feels like you're standing in a little bit more of a position that requires like analysis and strategy and determinations, instead of kind of like beautifying the kingdom or using your role to kind of like beautify your community and connect your community and, more of those watery feminine things. You're now like in this more kind of fire and air place in position, back in your kind of status you used to have, but in like a different way, where you're needing to be more intellectual as well as like fiery and sort of like passionate and creative, of like, what's the strategy and what's the judgment on this. And I've come from seeing the other side of the table, so I want to do this very thoughtfully and with a lot of thought. With Aquarius, a lot of thought for the future. And there is this thing with the moon showing up of feeling a little bit overwhelmed by it all and confused by it all. Like it feeling like too much, like having to hold too much. But Pluto, because you have this dignified and strength, like is going to continually make you learn that it isn't too much. And that if you do use your heart and your mind, you know exactly what to put in this empty room and how to hold your command, and the kind of strength you need and the kind of decisions you have to make. You can do it. I think you just have a resistance to doing it, which throws your psyche into a little bit of confusion around it. But the lesson you're going to have to learn is you're more than qualified, you're more than strong, and you know exactly how to fill this room. But yeah, for some reason it's like it's very interesting, because part of this reading is like you need to let life be wild and come straight from your heart and no logic. And then in these two, it's like you need to use your mind a little to make judgments and decisions. And not that you can't use your heart also in that, but the Swords is showing that like some strategy, using your mind to, well, coming from the heart, things starting at the heart, but then once you know where your heart is, having to use your mind to make some decisions and some strategies and take some actions. Yeah, so they are all kind of connected here. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, my sense here overall when I look at this is you are being thrown into a very different way of having to perceive life and being put into some positions that may feel uncomfortable to you because you do have to kind of use your status and make hard decisions that sometimes feel harsh to you based on things you've just come from experiencing. And that exactly is why you may be clinging to mind of like, how can I possibly make those decisions with my heart? My heart just won't make a decision, but it will if you trust it. Your heart is much stronger than you realize. And I think overall, that's kind of where some struggles are coming in that you're going to have to deal with the Pluto going through Aquarius, where the renovation is like, your heart is so much stronger than you think, and you need to trust it because it will make tough decisions when it has to. And then your mind is also strong enough to follow through and take action and create strategy on what your heart tells you, even if that means doing things that feel harsh. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't know why that's... I'm sorry is what I want to say. I don't know. Sometimes we just do have to go through things where we have to make decisions that there's never like a... That's what it feels like. It's like you're coming into some kind of command and there's never easy solutions. And that's just something you're having to learn, is like what it means to really be in power, really holding status. It means like having to sometimes make really, really tough decisions. But if you trust your heart, it will lead you to things that, oh, okay, here's what it is. It will lead you to things. This is what's so hard. I've got it, you guys. Sometimes it takes a minute for our dense human brains to understand what Spirit's trying to show us with the cards. You've got to trust your heart, because some of the hard decisions it's going to ask you to make will feel a little bit cruel. I don't want to say cruel, but just really tough, really hard decisions that you're going to have to make in a certain position you're coming into, it feels like. And so you're going to cling to mind to try and bypass those decisions. But if you can learn to trust your heart, what you'll find is that everything comes back around. And when you've made a decision from your heart, what felt like a really tough decision to make ends up being something beautiful that you couldn't foresee. And things or people that were negatively impacted may actually have been released to follow their own hearts, or brought some kind of different energy over here that impacted where they ended up and bettered this scenario that you thought you had to make a really like it all comes back around. And coming from your heart means decisions you're making, even if they're hard in the moment, are leading everything in that cycle of life to where they're supposed to be and to something better. That's what it is. So yeah, it can be hard to trust that. Your heart, when your heart's telling you to make decisions that feel like really, like, what? Okay, I've got to wrap my mind around this and make a strategy and follow through with that. But then my mind is like, oh, maybe I can bypass what my heart says if I do this or this or this. But it's like, if you do that, you complicate it, and maybe some of the beautiful results that come back around wouldn't be there. So you have to trust your heart even when it's difficult decisions. Wow, okay. There we go. So that is some pretty decent curriculum, almost 20-year curriculum to figure out. Yeah. So be gentle on yourself. My feeling is you may initially make decisions away from your heart that then have bad results, and then you even further don't trust your heart. And so like, it's a little bit of like really, really digging to uproot and understand like, oh, okay, look at that decision I did have to make with my heart and how that did actually turn out all right. And so now I start, like, it's a long, long process, I think, to understand these things, to even like step up to some of these things they're asking you to step up in, let alone make certain decisions and actions and whatnot. So that is your reading. I hope this was insightful. I hope it will be something that aids and guides you. Oh, sorry, one more thing. We're going to get an animal card for each of these for a guide, kind of like a guidance for you about each of these. So with the cups, we have cat. Oh, sorry, it's getting so dark, I can't see. Speak your truth. Have strength, faith, and conviction in your voice. It has never been more needed. Yep. Strength, faith, and conviction in your voice. And in your, in your heart, hence what your voice has, comes out with. Totally. That completely matches what we were talking about. Okay. And then will, tenderness, show compassion and forgive what needs to be forgiven. The unseen, Pisces, Four of Swords. Ooh, interesting. Well, going deep with the will is what I think of, like depth and ancientness. So I think as you really work to understand how Spirit is trying to communicate with you, how you're trying to understand the unseen, I think you need to be gentle with yourself and understand that you're going really, really deep, and that just takes time. That just takes practice, time. It takes focus, it takes contemplation. So be gentle with that, be compassionate with yourself, be patient with yourself. It is a very deep process of whatever this is, of like really developing some kind of language, co-creating a language you can understand with the unseen. Okay, last card. We have dog, divine service. How can you serve yourself better? Oh, I like that. And I feel like this is really good advice about like trusting yourself, trusting the decisions you have to make, and not getting too overwhelmed with how you're going to affect all the things that your decisions will make, when you know from your heart that it's things you have to do, decisions you have to make, actions you have to take. Yeah, you really have to when it says serve yourself, I want to say serve your heart. You really have to service your heart here. Really step up to the plate, honor your heart. You honor yourself and your heart when you take action on what it's asking you to take action on. And that helps you to not get overwhelmed and confused and try to use your mind to do other things, or to be like, well, what about how this is going to affect that person and this thing and that place and this and that, and just like really trusting your heart so you can stay away from that confusion, because your heart has already taken those things into account in a very like intuitive way, in a way your mind can't grasp. So if you try to interfere with your mind, you're not serving yourself and you're not serving anything, and you're just throwing things into confusion. Okay, for real, that's where we're ending. I hope this will be a helpful guide for you going forward, and I hope it was illuminating for what we've come through. And yeah, good luck with this new shift of Pluto in Aquarius. If this resonated, I always appreciate the things like, share, subscribe. Always grateful for kind and thoughtful comments, but in general, despite all that, just grateful for you to be here, especially with a more than 45-minute reading. That's a commitment, so thank you for sticking with it. Yeah, so just grateful that you're here regardless of any of the other things. And yeah, I hope you have a beautiful day wherever and whenever you are, and I'll see you in future readings. Hello, Pile 3. Welcome to your reading, where we are going to look at the past cycle of Pluto, what kind of renovations and kind of challenges and judgments you went through as Pluto traversed through the sign of Capricorn since 2008. And then going forward, what this new transit of Pluto in Aquarius for the next almost 20 years might bring up in terms of new challenges and renovations it wants you to sort of work on. So you guys picked this beautiful flower agate stone. I'm just gonna put it over to the side somewhere, maybe over here. Okay, so this first card, the one that was under your stone, is going to represent the first thing that came up with Pluto and Aquarius. We're going to look at 3 different things for each of them, for Pluto and Capricorn. So I'll look at that first. I'm going to get this card over, and then the other 2 as well. The cave, interesting. Okay, let's get 2 more. So yeah, representing sort of the different things that brought up in your life that kind of went into overhaul, transformation, renovation, whatever feels appropriate to you. So cave. Ooh, the siren. Interesting. And a third. The threshold. Okay. Kind of like how it goes from like black and white into some more mystical colors, into like really deep colors. I don't know why that's popping out to me. I don't know what I want to say about that, but I feel like something will come up about that as we go along. Okay, I'm also going to get, before we dive in to what these might mean, I want to get an astrology card under each of them as well. Cave with Venus. Oops. 12th house and siren are very fitting. Definitely go together well. Okay, and then let's get one for the threshold. And series. Oh, fascinating. Okay, these are very interesting. Let's fill into this. So the cave and Venus. I feel like this is bringing up something in you. I want to say Pluto was maybe trying to get you to deepen, develop very, very personal values, kind of deepen what is beautiful to you, what your worth is, what is it that you value, what gives you pleasure. I think it was asking you to go inward to really better understand this. So I don't know if before 2008, maybe there was some insecurity around your, Venus could also be your love nature. So even like spouses, marriage, commitments, on top of everything else I just said, self-worth, your inner values, your sense of beauty, all of these topics, or at least the ones that stick out to you. It's my sense that before 2008, this was maybe something you didn't have like a firm grasp of. Like you were maybe a little, I'm just kind of looking at the image of this with the bee down here. It feels, I always think of like birds and bees and flowering as like springtime, where things are a little bit, in the best possible way, shallow. It's very expressive and flirtatious and moving around, but also a little bit fickle. And so there may have been like some insecurity going into 2008 around, what is my sense of beauty? What does love mean to me? What is my self-worth? And so since then, something has been continually pushing you inward to trust your own intuition and to deepen into what that means to you, rather than looking at what that means to others or being told what it means by others or society or just different things that might influence you based on the external world. Pluto wanted you to develop a personal sense of this that was more deep, more soulful, more really in alignment with your essence and who you are. So coming out of this, you may have this new sense of like, oh, I can kind of breathe now. Like I have a much more secure foundational sense of what love means to me, what my worth is, what my sense of beauty is. And it's coming from somewhere that's unshakable, that's very personal as well. And it may have taken a long time for you to even accept what your value and sense of beauty is, like maybe it's something that's a little bit different than the mainstream. And so it's, sometimes things like that can be hard to own our own sense of something. So whether or not that's you, there's something around one or all of these: love, commitment, beauty, self-worth, your values. Yeah, definitely now coming from a much deeper, soulful place. Okay, and then Siren and 12th house, very mystical stuff. This feels like muse energy to me. Your ability to tap into inspiration and find flow with that and find a way to sort of use, take inspiration and do something with it that affects the world. And so maybe this is something, my sense here is like this was something that was kind of tucked deep within you, and Pluto wanted to uproot it. Pluto wanted you to see that this was a resource that was very valuable and potent and magnetic in you. But 12th house can be this place of secrets, things we don't necessarily want to show. So for some reason, maybe that side of you wasn't something you knew how to accept or what to do with or how to use it or own it or accept it, something like that. Pluto has really been pushing you since 2008 to uproot this, to develop this, to show it, to own it. And so coming out of it, you may have this, deeper sense of how valuable and how empowering your connection to inspiration is, and a new sort of strength and willingness to be proactive with that and own it in some way. And then we've got threshold and series. Interesting. I need to sit with that for a minute. Threshold and series, because these are a little bit contradictory in how I would normally interpret both of these. You know what? I want to get the tarot card out for both of these. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Something is starting to marinate, but I'm going to let it settle and see what comes in as I work on these two. So we're going to pick a tarot card for each of these first two that we've gone through to see what it was where you, around these two things, where you may have had like feedback or a review that was the thing that made you dig into these things. Like, what was the feedback you were getting, or the events that were coming that made you kind of really look at these issues that have come up. I feel like this top one wants to come out. Strength. Yeah, whatever's going on around your really personal, deeper sense of beauty, value, commitment is something that that you're meant to own as a strength. You're meant to be able to use in a way that gives you a little bit more command of life, like really knowing how to wield this with some power and with some command. And so this further enhances the sense I had that like maybe there was something that was a little bit insecure about this initially, but now coming out of this transit, you've been pushed to really own this in a way that you use it in like your, not just for personal purposes or just to like have more security in what these things are, but in a way where you can sort of take it into the world as a force, like do something as a force with this stuff, with your value, with your beauty, or your sense of beauty, with relationships. You're meant to really come from the heart and wield some power with this in some way, whether it's like in a leadership role or through some creativity, or just like radiating it in a very powerful way. But it's meant to be seen and shown and kind of owned with a sense of command. And so things may have come up to challenge you around this, like how are you stepping into leadership or really projecting your heart around these things into the world. And it may have been a lot of challenges around that, but now you're kind of graduating this and really something's deeply assimilated. So it's, now you can own this and really use that command. 5 of Pentacles. Ooh, okay. This thing in you, this kind of like, I want to call it like an inspirer that was really hidden deep down. It's interesting. So much stuff about value is coming up around these challenges. This was a wound for you, and that's why it was hidden very deep within. That's why it probably took a lot of trudging up deep inner work to like unearth this part of you. And that part of you feels very, or like it, not now, you're kind of graduating from this, but in the process of working on your inspirer archetype, it's like it's something in you that there was a deep sense of insecurity where you're kind of like torn. I think what was modeled to you, or where there was a wound, was sort of like this feedback of needing to be like more grounded, pragmatic, like more serious in life. But this thing in you is meant to be more of this artist that's not pragmatic, that is a little bit abstract and ethereal and hard to grasp, and just like it's not a concrete energy. But I think there was this pull in you to want to hide it in order to come across as like more serious or a more grounded individual. But that was creating a tear in your values. It was creating a wound in your true sense of what you value. And it could have been creating some financial issues for you, not because this is something you're supposed to use to produce value in you, but it's something you are supposed to value about yourself. And it became wounded at some point in your life, probably earlier in childhood. And so it was like a fracture in your sense of self-worth and value. There's a lot of different things that make up that aspect of us. And we've seen two different things, I think, that were kind of like, this felt insecure and like unsure what your personal like sense of beauty was. And we've talked about this: self-worth, sense of beauty, commitment, and this is more an inspiring energy, artist type energy. And it wasn't necessarily unsure. I think what it was, but you tried to hide it, and that created a different kind of wound in your sense of value. And so there was like this pull to finding like refuge, places to express it that were very kind of cloistered and safe and secret. But it was like hiding something about yourself. So it like just inherently in the need to feel you have to hide something in you that's can damage your sense of self-worth. And so there was this kind of like deep urge in you to restore that fracture, to better own this so you could be more open and real and authentic with that inspiration thing, to restore your sense of worth in yourself, to restore that fracture. Oh, and literally this person has like a cast on that foot, so some kind of fracture. It was like trapped energy, and you needed to free it in order to kind of restore your sense of self-worth in a different way than this. So a lot of work on both, even though these are different things, they both have to do with like really coming into a better understanding of your personal value, and owning things a little more deeply and wholly about yourself. Yeah. Okay, coming back to this thing, Ceres, which is a goddess of the harvest, and then the threshold, which is like stepping into a new path or a new horizon or a new something. I don't know, like it's unusual for me to not have some kind of impression that comes, or some kind of sense that comes. I don't know why this one's tripping me up so much. So I'm going to pull the tarot card and see if that helps bring these together. What is the relationship between them? Why are they there? King of Cups. Okay. Okay, so like authority of heart, mastery of heart. Something you're needing to own about the authority of your heart and the mastery of your heart. I feel some fear here. I don't know what that's about. Like hiding, fear. I don't know why those are coming up, but they are. So I'm gonna go with that, hiding and fear. Yeah, this feels like another wound. These are all like really interesting. These all feel very like personal woundings that Pluto wanted you to really unearth and face and examine and re-empower. So Ceres to me is this ability, like when we really own that goddess's power, is this ability to take something from conception to fruitfulness. So whether that's a project or a child, being able to rear it, to help it grow up, and then to be able to get it to a place where it's able to stand on its own. And I think this is something, again, that you have this like natural, beautiful talent in, like a deep mastery in. But I think there was this like fear of like taking the leap, taking the steps for some reason, to do that, like holding it back. And I don't know why I did get a sense of fear coming up and hiding that. I'm not sure why that is, and that might be because it's like a little bit different for each of you, of like why that part of you was like not really tapped into, like purposely, like always feeling like you were resisting this with some fear. Maybe there was some modeling, like in a parent or sibling, someone that was very close to you. That's what it feels like. You, like this feels inherited, but some people in your ancestry do it, you know, were masterful like kings like you in this, and some were more like pages and a little bit jack of all trades and all over the place and never really able to like hone it well. And I think in your direct line, like a parent or a sibling, you know, also has this archetype, but it's not mature. And, you know, they've tried to do things with that, like bring things into fruition. But it's like, maybe there's some like mental health issues or something there, or just some immaturity where they're never able to quite bring things to fruition. And so you kind of held back because it was modeled to you that like that path holds failure. But in your lineage, in your ancestry, you're a mature person in this energy. You have the strength, you have the mastery, you have the command, you have the focus and dedication and responsibility to bring things to fruition. And I think Pluto was trying to help you to unearth this and see it and to jump over thresholds and take risks. And I think there were probably some failures in it initially that confirmed to you the false idea that you didn't have it in you to really make things fruitful, bring projects or students or children into a fruitful, thriving place. But it's been self-sabotage. It's been sort of like you expected to fail, so you did. But Pluto kept making you take the leaps and do it over and over again. And I think now as you're graduating this phase, it's sort of like you're starting to understand, like, oh, I better see how you make plans for this and how this should be done. And I actually think I can do it. That's what I feel here. Finally coming into this thing of like, I actually think I got this. I think I can do this better than it was modeled to me and my previous tries that just, you know, I wasn't full-heartedly owning it and doing it. But like, I think I got this now. I think I know how to do this now. Yeah, that's what that feels like. Really cool. Okay, like this is a beautiful, like a lot of growing up happened here. A lot of new coming into some confidence and some ownership of certain things in you. So really cool, and congratulations on that if that is feeling resonant to you. If not, I feel like these things are going to solidify over the next, you know, months to a year. Okay, now let's look at what is coming up. What are the new challenges and curriculum that Pluto is going to bring up for you to unearth and work on and face some things as it moves into Aquarius? Ooh, well, let's take this top one, but that's too many to take the others. So the kiss, fascinating. I don't know if I've ever actually pulled this one. I might pull out the guidebook just to see. Of course, there's things I could think of to say about the kiss, but I'm curious what it means in terms of this deck. Okay, let's get two more. The medallion, again, too many under that, so we'll just take the top. And one more. I have never pulled either one of these. That's so fascinating. Oh, and this one is, in terms of new numbers in the deck, this one comes right before the kiss. So interesting. This one feels like it's going to be very foreign territory to me, to in the ocean. I do know that one. Okay. Or I've pulled that one a lot, actually. Okay, the kiss, the medallion, and the ocean. I'm going to pull up the guidebook to look at the kiss and the medallion real quick. Close. Okay, medallion, the amulet, the talisman, the heirloom. Do you believe that objects contain supernatural properties? Interesting. When have you experienced this to be true? Imagine if you and your family, school, or social group had a crest, emblem, or amulet. What would it be? Draw it. The passing on of sacred objects is an ancient ritual with families, between lovers, and in tribes across the globe. We gift jewels, treasures, keepsakes, and mementos of all kinds, some of greater material value, others that hold emotional resonance, and still others with both. Yet when these gifts are bestowed upon us, it is important to recognize that they may bind us to an unspoken agreement or promise. When this card appears, be aware of how the object you hold dear may be embedded with unconscious energy or expectations. Materials hold consciousness, and it's time to reconcile the vibration of the objects around you. What do you covet and collect? Why? Is there an object you have held onto for years that you are ready to release? Perhaps it is time to reach for the medallion that aligns with your deepest values. Ooh, okay. And then the kiss, the touch, the chemistry, the sex. Write down the story of your first kiss. What was changed in that moment? Intimacy is multi-layered and requires our reflection. Revisit what you consider to be sensual, taboo, acceptable, shameful. Before a first kiss, the air is electrified. Each breath is alive with possibility and magic. What will their lips be like? Their tongue? Do they want me in return? The archetypal energy of the kiss is a heightened sensation of merging with other, of letting in what was moments ago separate to become one. It is risky but beautiful business. These moments forever change us, and we move past the solitary self toward union and acceptance. This card suggests true intimacy is around the corner, which requires bravery and surrender. When the kiss takes a non-human form, it may be experienced as touching the sacred, hearing a whisper, or being graced by a divine being. You will recognize the presence of the kiss by cold chills and an awakening of the heart. Ooh, these are very, I don't know, tingly, both of them. And then the ocean to me is so deeply connected to like collective unconscious, your personal unconscious, doing depth work, connecting to other realms. Yeah, so much. Okay, let's get enough of unpacking these cards. Let's get an astrology card for each and then dive into what these might be about for you. The 9th house, exploration. Ooh, fascinating. I'm already getting a big vibe with that one. Scorpio, investigate with the medallion. Yeah, okay. And Aries, act. Interesting. Okay. So 9th house and the kiss. I think this Pluto journey has some excitement in store actually for you. It wants to shake up your sense of intimacy, your sense of how you really connect with another. This Pluto cycle, this Pluto transit is really going to push you to broaden your perspective of what that is, to push your boundaries a little in this. There may be some uncomfortable things that push your sense of what intimacy is. And that can come in the sensual territory, but also in the financial territory. When we merge with another and become intimate, that also includes sharing resources as well as like sharing ourselves. So in both realms, something's really wanting you to expand here, to really push your boundaries in this. So you may put yourself consciously or unconsciously into scenarios that really push your comfort zones around this. But ultimately what Pluto is trying to do, and I don't get any weird vibes, I don't get sort of like, being taken advantage of or any abuse type vibes here, but I do get the sense of sort of like something in you. Like an example that comes to mind is like someone that's maybe grown up with really Puritan type values, and maybe a little bit sheltered and naive about intimacy, sort of making a break with that belief system and feeling this need to explore more worldly ways of approaching intimacy, both sensually but also financially. Like I think of that scenario sometimes in really puritanical type cultures that can really subjugate women financially as well as sexually, feeling like dependent on another and also like needing to be a little reserved in their sexuality. And like maybe this is just an example, this doesn't have to be your scenario, but it's just like something that comes to mind, like breaking with that belief system or a culture like that and being like, well, like what if I also wanted to, make my own money, and then how does that work then when I merge with another and we both have money? That's new to me, kind of thing. And then also kind of pushing your boundaries a little bit sensually, but it feels to me like things your soul is trying to explore. So one thing to remember is like, you can't always say no. If you feel like you've gotten yourself like too far above your head and you don't feel comfortable with certain things, you can always say no to any form of power constructs, whether that's physical intimacy or resource intimacy. Medallion and Scorpio. I mean, this Scorpio very much so aligns with what the book was saying of like doing some investigation of what these, passed down items or items that didn't initially belong to you, things you may collect, things given to you, or like sigils that you make or emblems that you hold dear, like really investigating like how like why there's attachments to those, what kinds of expectations are placed on them. For some of you, you may not have even experienced this yet. There may be like a new wave of this type of thing, ready to come in. You might be like, I don't even know what that would be in my life right now. And that's fine. I think this is saying, for some of you, you may be like, oh yeah, I kind of know where that might be going. But for some of you, it might be like, this is on its way. Certain items of value coming to you, or symbols that have inherited meaning and expectation in them coming to you. And it could even be like symbols in the world in a more, broad perspective. But either way, whether it's like ones you personally own or ones that you kind of start seeing out in the world as being revered, or putting weird energy on certain things in the world, like either way, either or, both, doesn't matter. Really digging under the surface to understand the history of them, the history of what it means, the history of things it resulted in other people being attached to them, and then that empowering you to know what kind of power that might hold over you personally, and how to either honor that because you agree with it and you align with it, or break from it because it's something that is disempowering you, or creating weird results in you. But yeah, so it's very interesting. And then Act and Aries with the ocean. That is a very, again, this third pile is always a little strange to me. I'm like, these are very contradictory energies here, because this is all about the self coming into your own energy, your own boundaries, your own desires. And the ocean is about kind of like returning your energy into source and feeling that sense of oneness and looking under the surface of your unconscious, and all these kind of more mystical things. And Aries, like very self and grounded in this world, and, and so I'm like, these are contradictory too. I mean, it may just be like really needing to assertively dive into your unconscious, dive into collective unconscious, dive into source and spirituality, with kind of like a passionate drive, because there's something in that that's very connected to your source of passion. Your personal centering may be centered, and that actually feels right, because this feels like these feel like centering objects. Like your sense of centering and passion may be more deeply found by assertively losing yourself or assertively going under your surface and exploring unconscious, your unconscious, the unconscious, consciousness in general, other realms, spirituality, source, all of that. Very fascinating. Okay, let's get a tarot card for each of these. So something, all of these things are Pluto's going to put you into some curriculum to really unearth things about these for you, bring them more to the surface with more empowered owning of them. This one wants to come out. 5 of Wands. Yeah, this absolutely confirms what I picked up on. This is you making plans. This is you making decisions to really expand how you connect to intimacy. And you may really have to fight off old expectations, others from, like if you're making a break from like a religion or a culture or a certain group that has expectations for you, you may have to really defend yourself in that. But I feel your heart rising up in this and being like, no, this is how it is. I'm going and I'm making plans. I'm making my own strategies here. And I like seeing the strategy. So I don't feel seeing this, that you're going to put yourself in like really kind of precarious situations. I think you're going to be very planned about this. But what I think the challenge is going to be for you is defending yourself, is standing your ground with those that don't like a path you're starting to take or a break you've made from an old way of being. I do get the sense it could even be like breaking up with someone that you were in a certain kind of relationship and, really freeing yourself to explore different kinds of intimacy and relationship, and that being something that people from your past really struggling with and like trying to like even shame you a little bit or put some weird guilt into things, some weird worry. And so I think that's where the challenge is going to be, but you'll come out the other end of this like really strong in your heart and really standing your ground. And the next card after the 5 of Wands is the 6 of Wands, and that's victory, and that's where you'll end up by the end. I mean, it's a long transit, so there's definitely going to be a lot that goes on there, and it could take a lot of time to detangle from old ways to find your own fresh, broadened sense of what intimacy is to you, outside of other learned and projected things. 6 of Cups. Ooh, this is definitely more like inherited stuff. So a lot of you may already have a sense of certain objects that have been, or symbols or objects or crests that have been passed down, and really starting to be like, what kind of like power do those hold over me, or these objects, or these even it could even be like nostalgic memories of items that you didn't realize were holding some power over you. So for some of you, it's even like memory, not like the physical thing with you right now, but the memory of certain physical things. But it does feel more personal than worldly here with the 6 of Cups. Pluto's going to want you to really, really go into old memories, into things you have held with nostalgic adoration, but getting further under the surface and like, but should that be like a beautiful nostalgic memory, or is there something more that was going on there that I really didn't pick up on because I was a child? And now as an adult, can I re-examine that memory because maybe it's not as beautiful as I remember, or that object had some weirdness to it. But this does feel like going into memory. So this is a lot of psychological digging, like unpacking childhood is going to be going on here. And especially around certain objects or symbols that may still hold some power over you just through their memory. Yeah, fascinating. I don't know. Okay, let's get a tarot card for Ocean and Aries. Ooh. High Priestess, love that. Okay. Yeah, I think you're way more like intuitive and prophetic and mystically powerful than you know you are. I think you have this sense of that being there, but like there's never been the right timing or opportunity to really be able to dive into this. But Pluto going through Aquarius for some reason is like, okay, it's time. This to me feels like an easier curriculum than the other two. I feel like this is very eager energy. You're ready to dive into this. You're ready to unearth your inner high priestess and your personal centering you've never quite connected with, that is more ethereal and a little bit more out there. And so I just see you being assertive about this, but it taking like a long time to understand, like diving into esoteric things and spirituality. It's a process. There's lots of different spiritual awakenings that we go through. There's a lot to understand. There's a lot to work on in developing a relationship with this. It takes time, and that's what I feel like this is just not that it's like unearthing things you have to unpack, but unearthing this thing you've never really developed in yourself, and it bringing up new challenges over and over again for you to really push you into this. Push you into, like maybe scenarios that are going to continually come up where there is no like logical and linear way to deal with something, and you really have to kind of go into this more intuitive, mystical place to find your way through, to find clarity, to find your center in things. So that could be the part of the challenge. Part of it is just unearthing this to develop it, but part of it is, I think, challenges that push you to continue to go there, that require you to be connected to this more cosmic, ethereal, mystical center in order to understand the clarity of certain things, or your clarity in certain things. Yeah, very fascinating. Okay, before ending, I just want to get like an animal wisdom for each of these three things that are going to come up that you can use to give you a little guidance in this all going forward. So we've got owl with the kiss. Sight, detach your emotions from situations that you cannot control. Fascinating. And that feels very much so connected to having to defend yourself and detangle yourself from certain things. You may have to kind of like, shut off part of your emotions in order to cleanly detangle from an old way of feeling connected to what intimacy is. But something about being detached in order to move forward gives you some beautiful sight and some beautiful intuition at the same time. Okay. This one. Hedgehog, acceptance, embrace who you are. Fascinating. it could even be like as you kind of dig into childhood memories and certain objects, you may even be remembering objects. So, oh, that's actually an interesting thing. I think it's going to go both ways. I think you're going to have to examine memories of objects that you maybe need to like unpack and see more the reality of it instead of the kind of nostalgia of it, to unpack and detangle from things. But I also think you're going to unpack memories from childhood of things that you did adore, that held significance to you at that point in your life because they were so close to your essence, and you need to remember those because they hold, like our inner child holds a lot of truth about our true nature, our true essence. And as we get out of childhood into adulthood, so many layers of society and experiences and expectations and exposure to the world bury these things in us that were so true, that we knew so truly as a child we wanted to be connected with. So you may also, as you unpack things that maybe hold nostalgia that maybe shouldn't hold beautiful nostalgia, you may remember things that should hold greater significance and greater nostalgia, that you're reconnecting to and re-familiarizing yourself with your true essence through that. Ooh, I love that. So just like a lot of detective work on memory, things that weren't exactly as a child would understand, and then things reconnecting to things that you'd lost over time. Okay, let's get an animal for the last one. Honeybee, divine feminine, you are being called to rise. That's your high priestess. And I love seeing the honeybee because it's curious, it's flirtatious, it's connected to a sense of blossoming within yourself. So I think doing this work of really unearthing your high priestess and developing your high priestess is really going to connect you with a sense of your yin or feminine and intuitive and dark, wild side that you maybe really haven't connected with very well yet. Yeah, so beautiful. Okay, that is where I'm going to leave you, pile 3. I hope this was insightful. I hope it gave you some insight into what's coming to a close, and so being able to look back at things in a more holistic way and being like, oh, okay, this all makes sense now. That's why I went through these things. And then having some insight and guidance of why new certain things may be starting to percolate, and some guidance and insight and wisdom around how to go forward with those. So that's where I'm going to leave you. If this resonated, I always appreciate support with likes and shares and subscribes. Definitely always grateful for kind and thoughtful comments as well. Always just grateful that you're here regardless of any of those things, because I so enjoy doing this. So it brings me joy if other people get things from it, and yeah, want to dive into the cards with me. So have a beautiful day wherever and whenever you are, and I will see you in future readings. Hello, pile 4. Welcome to your reading, where we are going to take a look at what was unpacked, unearthed, renovated during your Pluto and Capricorn transit, which started in 2008 and has, for the most part, ended by the time this reading comes out. We're going to look at 3 different things it brought up, and then we will change and look at what the new transit is bringing in. 3 new things that are going to be unpacked and renovated as Pluto moves through Aquarius for the next nearly 20 years. Before we jump into your cards, I just have to say something is really catching my attention with your stone. Like something, I really feel like deep messages are going to be here for you guys. Yeah, I don't know why your stone was just really kind of speaking to me for some reason. So let's see what that is. So let's start with the past transit. We're going to look at what was going on with Pluto going through Capricorn for you. This is going to be the first kind of thing that came up, the fault line. We're going to get 2 other cards so that we look at 3 different things. Ooh, wow. The Destroyer. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I felt some sort of like really deep messages coming for you guys. The fault line and the Destroyer. Wow. Good news is this is something you're graduating from already, so that's good. And the Nectar, that kind of balances it out. The Nectar. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get an astrology card for each of these as well. Mars with motion. Wow. Yeah, this is I have a feeling you guys have been through it since 2008. Retrograde review. Good gracious. And thank goodness this transit is over for you guys. Wow. Just before I even read these, congratulations, you're done with this. And then second house and Nectar. Okay. Woof. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be an intense, at least first part of your reading is intense. Fault line, Mars. In the tarot, Mars is the planet associated with the Tower card, which is all about the destruction of, which these may be kind of tied, the destruction of faulty, things that have been built that are now faulty. Maybe at some point they were, but they're like no longer standing well. It's like the destruction of a building that's starting to fall apart. And then we have the fault line to me, which is about foundations falling apart. So we've got this in the Tower card, which, Mars is the astrological association to that. It's like lightning from above that implodes the tower. And then with the fault line, that's something from underneath. So from like both ends of this, it's like the foundations of your life as well as what you built high in your life were just like your whole axis of being was just like completely crumbling. Since 2008, it's just like, I feel like maybe you've been through shakeup after shakeup after shakeup, like constantly having to reinvent yourself and that constantly falling apart because something's not quite done foundationally right or built right. The good news in this, even though it's probably been a real beast, is Pluto is wanting to help you to maybe get a hold of some impetuous energy in you, really mirror to you and help you to see a potentially impulsive and impetuous side to you where maybe you've taken action on things that weren't realistic or just jumped into things way over your head or jumped into things too soon, which always results in like things not having great foundations or great building. The beautiful news with Mars is it does have clear direction and a clear idea of how to give order to things, how it wants things ordered. And so I feel like this Pluto through Capricorn was helping to unearth being able to see in which ways you were enacting the negative sides of Mars and better developing the positive sides of Mars. So coming from learning how to tame that impulsive and impetuous side and come into a more ordered, kind of militant. So like in a positive sense, like Mars can be the warrior and the soldier, and they do really good with structure and order. When they don't have structure and order, it's this energy that's been uprooted in you. So I think since 2008, you've been pushed to more and more create a more kind of like militant sense of yourself, to be able to harness and direct that impetuous, assertive energy in you. So instead of just acting with no real clear foresight, now you understand your energy and you understand that it needs structure and order. And so now you're coming in more as like an emperor instead of the tower. By the time you finish, as you're finishing this Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn transit, it's like it's transformed you from being a little bit reckless, the maverick that's a bit reckless, into a soldier that has order, or even an emperor or soldier that has order, that has clarity, it has direction, and it's really understood that it needs certain boundaries and focuses in order to contain and direct its energy. Yeah. The destroyer and retrograde, I feel these as very connected, like Pluto really wanting to see this energy in you that is like, just like very assertive, like I feel like a lot of people here may have that energy of like a bull in a china shop, where you just, you go through a store and in your wake, like everything's just unfolded and left on the floor, and you're just a forward motion person. You're just an action person. But Pluto's been trying to help you to see that the messes you leave in your wake have to be dealt with. You can't just put them, to an extent, other people may take care of them, but after a period of time, that destroys relationships, that destroys the access you have to things, it destroys your reputation, it destroys, like you leave destruction in your wake, hence you end up with a lot of loss. And I think Pluto going through Capricorn was helping you to reflect upon this and to have this mirrored to you in a way that you understand it and could look back and see this. Certain things you've left in your wake by just, kind of assertive forward motion action, or taking action on what you need in an impulsive way, and really being able to see that you need to hold more consideration for others and be more aware of your effect on your environment and on others, and really being able to harness that destroyer energy as something that's a real motivating energy. So moving from leaving destruction in your wake to now understanding that energy can be harnessed, and it can be a motivator. It can be a, like an archetype, not saying you have to have anything to do with this, but an archetype of a good destroyer turned into a motivator would be like a personal trainer. Really knowing how to motivate people to like get in there, be assertive, channel their willpower, channel their willingness to move forward, to go forward, to seize the day. You can do that. You know how to seize the day. It's just that you've had to reflect to see that the way in which you do it matters. and the responsibility to the effect you have on environment and others matters. So there's a way to do it, and there's in a conscious, aware way, and there's a way to do that in kind of a maverick, recklessy way. And I think you've learned the difference in this since 2008. So yeah. And then we've got the nectar and second house resources. And this actually does connect. I mean, they all feel somewhat connected to me. This feels sort of like a result, like certain behaviors that you needed to get a hold of that were due to this kind of impetuous energy of just like, you may be someone who's good at creating resources, because you go after what you want. So you probably are able to get your hands on resources, to reach certain income, to amass certain, finances, resources, whatever it is to you. But at the same time, it's like easy come, easy go. The nectar to me is that spring birds and bees. It's a little bit surfacey, and it's like distracted, like, ooh, look at this shiny thing. Oh, and look at that beautiful thing. And I want this and I want that. And so it's like maybe you're able to get what you want easily in terms of like the resources you need, but then it goes right back out because you're like, oh, well, I have this money or resource and that could get me this and I want that. And so it's just sort of like never really taking the time to be foresightful and planned, but you're coming out of this Pluto transit with a much more mature, aware, conscious, ordered understanding of your energy, and how that energy can create certain behaviors, and so how to like better manage those. So, I mean, it's an impressive energy. I don't want to be down on you guys. This is like, I mean, I don't think my brother's ever going to watch a tarot reading, so I hope he doesn't see this, but this is my brother to a T. Like, this is just like I'm just like reading his energy and being like, oh, there's a whole bunch of my brother out there. It's so funny. And he's like one of my favorite people in the world. There's such positive, energetic, motivational energy, but he is like a bull in a china shop and so often doesn't realize the messes he makes in his wake, and it's frustrating as all hell. So maybe this pile is for him. I hope to see that more mature energy that I'm feeling resulting here come out of him too. We'll see. Okay, let's get a tarot card for each of these for a little bit more insight into like maybe why these were coming up for you to work on. Three of Pentacles. Yeah, exactly. You needed to bring like, there were probably things that have come up since 2008 about working well with others, about collaboration, about creating well-honed machines and having like defined roles. This feels like workplace stuff to me. It can be collaboration, or it can be like having defined roles so things run well. And so issues around that are what prompted you to have to confront, unearth, and work on that kind of like impetuous, impulsive energy to make it a little bit more ordered and militant in a way. Okay, let's get a tarot card for the Destroyer. 8 of Pentacles. Yeah, also certain skills. This is all very, I don't know, like work has probably been like a big thing for you since 2008, like a major feature of what you've been focused on in life. But there's some kind of skill that you've been mastering, and that required you to be a little bit more careful and, you know, because this destroyer energy, that bull in the china shop, and I actually can like think of a different example for this. I had a boss once. I used to be in event stuff, and at one point was like in event production and design, and I wore all sorts of hats. So not only design, but you would do like one of the features is we would do our own florals, as well as kind of designing the overall atmosphere and, you know, layouts and decor and whatnot, but we also did floral. And I had a boss that is like, he had great overall vision, but when it came to the details, he would just kind of like, you know, shove some flowers in a vase, and it would usually, because he had skill and vision, like it would usually be fine. But sometimes, you know, I'd come behind and sort of like refine a little bit of what was going on in his execution. And it feels like that. It's like there's vision here and there's motivation and this impressive energy of like, we're going to do it this way and this is how it's going to happen. But when it comes to like the details, there's some detail orientation that needed to be developed to really be taken seriously and honored and respected. So it's like, you know, like maybe you can bring in that job because you have a vision, but the execution sometimes got bad reviews for you. And so you were sort of forced to pay attention to some of those details and to refine detail orientation that really enhanced the overall skill set you had. Yeah, that's what that feels like to me. Okay, let's get... realizing I've attracted a lot of people like this into my life, and I'm always the fixer. Jeez. You guys, don't make us be fixers, please. I think you've got it now, though. Okay, let's get... I love these people, though, so much. They're life of the party, right? Okay, and then we've got Justice for Nectar in second house. Yeah, okay. And Justice is balance also, a sense of balance. It can be fairness, but it also can be balance. And I'm feeling the balance predominantly about this, of like easy come, easy go is not a very balanced, stable way to be. And so to find your peace, to find your balance, and to find a certain stability, this kind of energy threw you off balance. And so that's what was instigating the work to kind of be more careful and planned about how you manage resources and how you spend, and what you're seduced into just like impulsively throwing your resources at. I think it was creating an imbalance, and it was just something I think personally motivated. You needed a sense of balance, and this was the thing that needed to have like a more thoughtful approach to bring that balance. For some of you, not everyone, this also could have been like a significant spouse or marriage partner that your behaviors in spending created some what was perceived as unfairness. And so like another person may have been the factor that was kind of like on you and on you and on you to like get a hold of this behavior in order to create a little bit more fairness in the relationship. Yeah, but that's not for everyone. That's only if you are married or in a serious, live together kind of relationship type of thing. So yeah, okay. Let's get an Earth Alchemy card for each of these to show something that the cards and spirit would like to communicate to you about your graduation in each of these things. Lava stone and red hot poker. My body is a safe space. Transmuting, breaking down barriers, realizations. Yeah, I mean, this is a very physical energy here, and I think it's a very somatic thing. Like, it's something you had to learn through physical experience. And so it's like now you understand that at a cellular level. You understand it in your body. You sort of can sense the different chemicals and hormones that are released when you're not ordered and moving forward versus when you feel some order and directing it forward. It's like you feel it in your body here. That's what you're graduating with. It's like there may not be like a deep intellectual understanding of how this happens, but you can just feel in your body how to like control this better. Okay. Fulgurite and Rose Bay Willow Herb, regeneration, acceleration, change, shamanic wisdom. Ooh. Regeneration, retrograde. Yeah, you're very much so. You've killed the aspect of you that wasn't always aware of your effect on others and your environment. That is a part of you that at some point since 2008 you've fully killed and rebirthed in a very different way. Like you've done a very, very deep transformation of this destroyer energy of really having a much deeper, more profound understanding of the effect you have when you're not conscious and aware of what's going on beyond your own inner world. Yeah, so now you're just much more clear, and I'm looking at these like owl eyes, like just much more aware. You've completely been rebirthed with a much deeper awareness of your effect. And then Azurite and Orchid, Lyrian Stargate, personal power, healing entanglements, throat opening. Yeah, so for more of you than maybe I was thinking, I think another person may have been an instigator in pushing you to see and understand and develop better behaviors around money. Yeah, and it's healed your relationships with others. Yeah, that's beautiful. So that justice being very connected to a sense of fairness, certain sort of impulsive spending behaviors, really understanding how that affects others, and so getting a hold of it to establish better balance and fairness. Yeah. In your entanglements. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the new things that are going to be coming up as Pluto starts to move into and through Aquarius. Clear away these cards. Okay. All right. Same setup. Let's get 3 overarching cards. The Hunter. Yeah, you guys are definitely just your essence to me is like very, very Aries-esque. A lot of Aries, rising moon, suns maybe here. Don't have to have that, but I definitely sense an Aries presence here. The Mermaid, also a Sagittarius presence. Any fire, like I'm just like fire signs. The Maiden, the Hunter, ooh, interesting. Okay. And the Pilgrim. I like seeing this for you guys. The other two make a lot of sense for me, but I think this is a good thing coming up. Okay, let's get your astrology cards. Oh, fantastic. North Node. This is a very powerful thing coming up for you, but we'll get into it. The Sun. Fascinating. And filling this one. Uranus change. Okay. Yeah, I can't wait to get to this one. I'm feeling a lot about that. But let's look at Hunter and North Node. I like actually seeing this. This does like confirm to me that a lot of the work that happened as Pluto went through Capricorn made you more serious and more focused. And now, as it goes through Pluto, it's even further going to unearth not just being a focused person, but like really starting to understand that focus and targeting and having really specific long-term type of aims is where your destiny lies, is a thing that really enlivens you and lights you up. So I do see you really charging ahead with Pluto and Aquarius to more deeply develop this more focused sense of yourself. We'll get into a tarot card later to see what the issue is that you're going to have to work through in order to do this, but it's very connected to destiny for you. It's very connected to feeling charged up though. To me it feels like this is kind of an unearthing and a renovation that you are choosing and proactively diving into, but we'll see when we get to the tarot cards what comes up there. Maiden and the Sun. This is a whole other side of you, and it totally makes sense with the people I've already brought up that feel like they would be in this pile, is like along with that kind of impulsive maverick type of energy, a lot of people with those general archetypes can be a little bit promiscuous. It doesn't mean you have to be, but it does seem to come. It doesn't even have to be, like the Maiden doesn't have to be promiscuity, but it is like being attracted to the rock and roll side of life. The parties, the drugs, the promiscuity, the excitement, like it's just that hype, the hype energy. But it's something that ends up typically wounding us and getting us in a little bit of trouble. And Pluto wants to illuminate. So like in Capricorn, it was illuminating certain material behaviors. In Aquarius, which makes sense because Capricorn is an earth energy, but in Aquarius, it's going to be illuminating certain kind of hype behaviors that are maybe creating some negative results in your life, kind of around the rock and roll, being attracted to the rock and roll of life. The hype energy, the rock and roll, the bad boys or bad girls, whatever you want to call it. The glitz and glamour, the just things that are a little bit fast living in terms of excitement, not necessarily money, but in terms of like, living a certain rock and roll lifestyle. Something's being illuminated about this to show you what aspects of this are a detriment to you and what aspects of this need to grow out of a maiden phase into a deeper, more mature phase. And I don't think, because the essence of like the type of people I keep thinking of for this pile, and I don't want to project on you guys because you may be very different from the people I'm thinking of, but there is like a rock and roll essence that's natural to you. So I don't think like Pluto's trying to breed that out of you. It just wants to make you use things in more, do things in more empowered and conscious ways, right? So I don't think it's going to like push the rock and roll out of you, but where the rock and roll is creating negative outcomes in your life, it wants you to see that and it wants you to grow out of certain aspects of it. And then we've got Pilgrim and Uranus with change. And this is where I see you really growing into a very different side of yourself than maybe you've seen, a much more spiritual side of yourself. I think there's going to be some like new sort of like spiritual, even kind of scientific-y, not like science industry, but like there's a lot of scientific theories and notions out there that are, kind of mind-bending and perspective shaking, which Uranus is about, like really shaking up your whole like orientation to things, really elevating your consciousness. And so I think certain things you're going to be exposed to are really going to change your perceptions, change your perspective, change the level of consciousness you want to be plugged into. You're going to start seeking higher and higher forms of consciousness, which are going to change aspects of your essence, aspects of that rock and roll essence that's felt here, into a little bit more of a spiritual vibe. You may even be getting into certain things like transcendental meditation or yoga, or just like, and not just as like, something I do for 20 minutes in the morning so it makes me feel good, but like studying it, like really getting into it and really incorporating it into a certain belief system and how you think, and really completely changing things in you. And I think it's good. I think it's going to be really beautiful for you guys. I think it's really going to push you to evolve who you are, in a big way. Okay, let's get some tarot cards to help indicate what sort of like the thing that's the instigator that's making you face up to uprooting and doing some renovation in these things that have come up. 8 of Cups, interesting. Yeah, your heart is changing. Your heart is completely shifting. I think, because this feels like this further progressing of what we saw from the Capricorn transit, I think you like really got like a very deep whole understanding of some recklessness you may have had. And you're now on this like heart journey to really seek something different in your energy, some different way of being. But it feels like a whole transformation of your heart. And that could even be what the Hunter is about, like really trying to target the kind of heart you want, and feeling very passionate and like it's destined for you to completely transform how you connect to your heart. So this, in a way, actually plugs into the Pilgrim for me. Yeah, like your heart is going through some big shifts, and the way you want to be connected to your heart is something you're going to be pushed further and further into developing and understanding. And the thing that's pushing you, the instigating force here, is your heart. Your heart is pushing you to hunt a different way of using it, of using your heart to guide you, using your heart to create targets in life, using your heart to know what you want, know what your direction is. Not that you haven't, like, I do think you're very heartful people, but it's just like you're needing to, your heart is wanting you to do this in a very different way. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Your heart is the instigator there. Okay, let's look at tarot for the maiden. 7 of Cups. Yeah, that makes sense a little bit. Yeah, again, like, it's almost the same thing from having that the behavior of how you were connected to easy come, easy go and materiality, and being distracted by all the shiny things, and very easily, you know, bringing money in but throwing it at that thing because that's cool and that's shiny and I want that and whatnot. The same thing is now happening with your heart. Pluto's trying to help you to see beyond the material realm into things like wanting to be emotionally engaged in all of the different things, so you're kind of spread thin. And that is a little bit of that rock and roll feel where it's like, oh, I'm going to go to this party here and that person's doing this, and it's like very electrical and I'm like involved in so much, but sort of spread thin and exposing yourself to, you know, party time. And this is Pluto wants you to get more focused, and that's coming back to the hunter of like refining how many things you get distracted by, how many things you want to be entangled with, how many things you want to be involved in, instead of being everywhere at once. It's trying to make you see that if you pick 1 or 2 things instead of 7 things, your results and the outcomes in your life will be well worth that focus, well worth that depth instead of the shallowness. And that's what's happening here. That's the thing that it's wanting you to move from kind of the shallow maiden into the deeper kind of mother or soul territory, where it's like, focus on less. Move from being that teenage energy that needs to be everywhere and doing everything and hot topic and this and that, to really focusing on a couple things that you can create more stability and radiance and true foundational worth in and heart in. And yeah, it's just kind of like weeding out the excess, getting you more focused, being maybe just like a little less spread socially and a little bit more focused socially. Yeah, that's what that feels like. But I think what's going to be pushing you into this is this feeling of like spinning out constantly. This feeling of like life is just, in terms of the activities I engage in and what my heart and emotions keep drawing me into, I'm just kind of like spinning. I'm just kind of going from one thing to the next, and then it goes over and over again, and I'm actually just spinning, and this thing in your heart again that keeps coming up of like, can we just center? Can we just pick a couple things to focus on? I need some grounding. I need some foundation. So your heart is really so far the thing that's instigating some of the deep uprooting and transformations that you're going to be going through here. Okay, let's get one for the Pilgrim. 10 of Pentacles. Beautiful. Okay, so that feels like whatever kind of like new consciousness or spirituality or just like different perceptions and thinking that's coming in. This is where the true focus is going to further and further move toward. It's going to move further away from like the rock and roll and further into this like deeper connection to life and mastery in a few things. And you're going to start to see little by little as you push further and further into some kind of practice that really is transforming and changing the way you're connected to consciousness. You're going to start little by little seeing that the results it's creating are above and beyond what this more exciting energy and scattered and hype energy has ever been able to like create. There's like this more flourishing, sustainable, grounded, mature connection to the material of life that starts to further and further present itself. And so I feel like this is kind of a lure for you. This all feels like a lure for you. This all feels like you're in this exciting energy, but your heart is like, yeah, but it's not creating like stability in my life. I'm just kind of spinning and I need to leave this way of being. And the more and more you kind of push into this new focus and working on consciousness and being connected to some kind of spirituality, the more you see those results you're craving, results you didn't really even know you could anchor into your life. And so it's like a lure, but this stuff is always going to lure you back. You know, it's like this push-pull. It's like, yeah, but this is exciting and fun, and I love the hype energy, but I love the results of this. And I think this is going to be the challenge of Aquarius and Pluto. Pluto and Aquarius is like that tension of moving back and forth, but little by little by little, and by the end of the Aquarian transit, you're going to be like really deeply implanted here and in like just a much more sacred sense of self and life and how you work with community. And it will still be exciting because you've got Uranus here. It's just in a more focused, conscious kind of spiritual way. Yeah, interesting. Okay, to end this, we are going to get an animal guide message for each of these, for just like a little bit of insight and guidance from something that wants to help you with each of these kind of transformations. Dear, trust, approach the situation with a light heart. Yeah, because your heart is leading you somewhere new, and it's maybe like that can bring a lot of grief with it and a lot of disappointment as well. But this is saying like, try to be light about that. Like your heart is taking you somewhere more beautiful, somewhere where it thrives better. And so just trust your heart and be light about it. You can still grieve things, but try to like, just lighten up in the fact that where it's leading you will be beautiful. And hopefully that kind of message helps you to lighten up about what you are leaving and kind of moving away from. And we've got Panda Balance. Ask how to bring balance to your situation and into your heart. We saw that balance thing in Pluto and Capricorn, but that was about kind of the material of life, and now that balance around the same kind of, thing, but more of that like expending your energy in just a rock and roll way, needing to find balance with that. Balance into your heart. Again, it's the heart is mentioned in both of these. It is absolutely confirming that the heart is the thing kind of leading you to this more focused. This feels like little by little that hunter is going to be focusing more and more on this and less on the scattering of energy. Okay, last card we have, Eagle, ancestral healing. Your ancestors are holding space for you to heal your past. Beautiful. I love seeing this. So this draw into a more kind of conscious, a little bit scientific, a little bit conscious, a little bit spirituality, into this kind of new agey realm that is more deeply connecting you to your heart and finding your center and finding that balance and beauty and flourishing in life. Your ancestors are absolutely involved in pushing you towards this, in creating scenarios that expose you to certain concepts or practices or ideas or places to visit that change you. There's energy behind the scenes that are helping to orchestrate further and further, pushing you deeper and deeper into that. Yeah, very cool. All right, this is where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope this was insightful and helpful, and something that can help you to close out the last chapter and have some guidance for how to go forward into this next chapter. And if this resonated, I always appreciate support with likes and shares and subscribes. Definitely grateful for kind and thoughtful comments, but regardless, just love having you here. That in itself is something I consider to be supportive. I just enjoy reading, so I'm glad people get something from it. And I will hopefully see you in future readings, and have a beautiful day.